Hey, this is Miseryless Company, a weekly social reading series hosted by miserytourism.com. Every Friday, we welcome outsider and transgressive writers to share their work with us. And it's Friday again, so let's get going here. Gianluca is up first. It was
Oh
going to
crap!
be Josh. It
I'm,
was going to be
I,
Josh, but he canceled on us again.
so wait, I'm up.
You're up.
Uh, am I? Oh fuck.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. You're going, my
uh.
understanding is you're going to spit some bars for us.
Okay, hold on.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, God. Uh.
Do you want some time to psych yourself up? Do you want me to go to the next person and do you second? How about that?
Oh n no, I think I can do
You
it.
ready? Okay,
Right?
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Sick. Awesome. Sorry. All right. All right. I'll give everyone the link. Okay. Yeah. All right, everybody. Here we go. Gonna be doing a little bit of rapping here. Okay. I've been composing some raps recently. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. I drew a tarot card death, baby talking like Betsy Brown. Can't help but hold my breath. My path foretells falling down, descent, emergency, heat wave. Do repent, no regard for my health. Going stealth, no one recognizes that I'm too narcissistic to love. Can't help but be fatalistic. I'm buried in and a criminal like HCE. My evil is subliminal, probably. Health Castle goes on forever like a confidence man. I try so hard to sever your intuitions from the world. Married to a girl made of superstitions, the world returns to its source. Black coffee couldn't make it worse. I'm a designated hero of my own narrative. Sympathy of the narrator never drowned to zero, no matter what I do. Black balaclava, the air reminds me I'm a screw sweet as guava. You're the one who makes the story worthwhile. You don't deserve the bile. You've aimed at yourself. I want you to disappear so you know how it is. I want to control you like Chairman Mao. He was a good man lied about. All I need is a way out and a sign. All right. That's one rap. Let's go. Another rap. Let's go. Let's go. They tried to understand you, couldn't wake with no understanding. Walk amongst the levitating crew. I couldn't escape your branding. Walk along the pavement, treetops, worshiping your enslavement to those codes and numbers, little to your depravement. You pick out the cucumbers, ashes through the slumbers, lie to them all, leading man. All your morality selfishly disencumbers. The thought of breeding disgusts you. You resist it, but you love it, pleading. Repeating motifs justify a grand narrative. You say it's just a misreading. I fall apart at the preparative phantasm, my speech pattern declarative, a house of flag and woman, American Mickey Mouse imperative makes you cry. They bring out the jerrycan illusion, a simple skeleton illusion. A slimy shut-in has no value to you or I. Bright orange with the merry tan, banana pancakes, it's what you can do. See the crime gal, you can take it. Imagination sucks you in. She became victim of the Hallyu. Quick note here: Hallyu is the wave known as the Korean wave, the popularity of South Korean media. Art, the arrogance undergoing ablation, an overwhelming wish for castration, fear when it came true, all the time you're for your hideous flotation fixation, and she wanders till the end, the stalker ain't due. Gray Devil laughed because he knew the ugliness of his thoughtless, and all the floor is just Carissa, the petals in yellow or blue. A river can flow through Orissa, a small part like a mantissa. You're afraid of the choice like the doll, and all the wasteland is this a cup of styrofoam. The rhizome of your priorities struggles with your voice. The fart is appealing as to Joyce. Your worth reduced to pleasure out of self hatred. The virgin rolls like a Royce. Okay, cool. Next rap. Let's go. I'm sorry, everybody. Nation, it's imperium, collective delirium, homestuck deviant art, can't concentrate, I bust all criterion. I'm no schmuck, god at the collate, mushroom cloud, Women masturbate. I see the callousness of the average man. Everyone's thoughts they can dictate. Narration ain't your own. Don't be proud. Your consciousness is the crowd. The critics smile at the obvious appreciation covered in that yellow shroud, traveling down their osseous aisle. Bodies concentrated in the pile. I try to be something lovers can suffocate for a while. Dumb thing can't sigh like the rest of us imply, or silly signifiers. I can't cry in human. Buyers got no acumen. Christians catechumen liars. The cave has no jungle because I made it up, but we gotta be polite to avoid the fires. Lipstick can't corrupt its fungal. Women are trophies they bungle. Desolation row, crisis of the wheel, beating them up till they pungle. No greatness to steal. The tape banana is real. Still, they call it nullity. Incomprehension, they squeal. All right, next rap. Next rap, everybody. Loosen tie, fashionable eye bags, what a cunt. All we can do to stand against this cold front. The advancing gaseous wave, polar bears, they say Aryan, microdont. Have you ever felt the uselessness of saying, the fantasy weighing on a mind so useless as to not understand love? Until now, the vocalization braying and the trumpets jagged, aligned thereof. I tried not living on the moon above, rich lady poet drowning in her tears. It's sickening, I want to get rid of her, but the beers are discarded. I'm retarded along the years. I can say that I'm diagnosed, misogyny in squares. Pine trees make a beautiful logo, French toast. If I could, I'd try to be your ghost, but I can only rap like a bitch. She can walk Togo on the midmost line. I'm a primitive, adding in the silly grace notes to confuse mind trap. I take you to the limit of a bad attention span. I vibrate your crap. The eyes stay solid, and I know it would have ended anyway. I have no bootstrap. My soul is squalid, an entry to the array. Next rap, everybody. Next rap. Your name makes me sad like Hideo Nakata. Shots from the critics like Purapapa. True bands unknown, conversion bluffing. Turn to the light so you can say something to stirred people selling self-centeredness. Machines can squeeze your pectoralis. Jamie Kennedy, prophet of the global city, obstructing the shine, obliterating pity. The two acolytes deserve a shrine, not his irony. The image stands tall, marble casting tyranny, A10 reoccurring. I embarrass myself, your sex stirring. I got Riz in the club, but that ain't true. I do the poses, that's enough to cut through. Roses go crazy, false penis envy. All I want to do is take the razor and me, pantomime jumping in front of the tram, bend me. All these thoughts are sham when it comes to sincerity. Never gave a goddamn. There's a falsity to what I say, prancing around like I'm putting on a play here in Paradise Theater. The language of the critic is imprecise. There's nothing left to say, even if I wanted. He's haunted, reputation gone, miming death in a silly way. It was all some kind of insider trading. You sneered at those who weren't degrading. Oh, fuck. Okay, all right. Final rap, I think. Final rap. Pornography, pastel relation, nothing foxy loxy, but no educated horses for their parodic nays or but bluffing. And that's what this new modern divorce is. Yeah, the sun is your plaything, the hot stream airing, your mollusk bathing. No fault can't be your chocolate ape because nobody knows where it's gone, my anchoring. If I'm back from the future where I was mostly, how come the hippie chicks can't let their toes free? Yeah, the gem is crazy, but the fear is tormenting. Atreides, yeah, potential fermenting. Fate is the gate within the new onus. If you're in a landscape, I'm radio, music, Concord, grape. The future laws you sick. You is me in the Paradise Theater. You think all you talk is gold, or that into which the whole world is rolled. Cloaked and beater, cloaked and Anbieter. Frick, I forgot how to pronounce that German word. Cloaked Anbieter. Anbieter. Cloaked Anbieter. Frick. Cloaked and beater. Anbieter. Cloaked Anbieter. Cloaked and beater. Golden skin is motion mold. Hypocrisy, final rhetorical accusation, aforementioned man of iron from an alien nation doesn't even know pacifism moot. My machinations upstaged by the peasant brute. Philosopher shedding disdain at an unworthy target, stuck in your orbit, abuse me like a market, so sexy in your shoes, but morose like a garget. Of course, from the false German land, the ape can no longer be canned. Philistine in the court, yeah, I said it. A case for an apple, yeah, I pled it. Glass blend to a whole nother level, hit heterodox patent. I can't but dishevel. Yeah, I'm selling chocolate apes. A whole new kind of tumor aches. But your ass pimple is the new kind of flavor, the juicy fruit we all like to savor, but a mouth can't close when it's clamped around the sex pose. And so, as if it was a wooden cube, the nostril is forced open by the plastic chew, panting and drooling over the mastication obstruction, patiently awaiting your new destruction. Okay, well, this is just a love song. It's not really a rap. It doesn't rhyme. Let a man sing so troublingly of nothing at all. You're such a cutie. It makes me so sad because I don't know if I want to be you. I make sounds but not coherent. People think I'm a liar. I do too, but I don't know what the truth is. What if there's nothing and I'm scared? But that's all I am, and it's pathetic to admit that. There's a deep paranoia in your soul and it's trying to get out. Disturbance realm, always tremor. Nosferatu climbs seaward to beauty, and yes, it's cracking apart. I am nothing and I am cruel. Why is birth? I love my parents. It's unfashionable to say that. Am I deformed or just a narcissist? Perversion should be limited in our society, for it encourages jump up and down disturbance, selfishness, happiness, and the rot of the soul. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Fanta for the Nazis, Torrid, Forever 21, Inner Tradition, Supreme. If I list brands, does that make the song subversive? Have both of us had a requisite degree of commentary as a performance of outrage before the mindless entertainment as we ride to the nothing that faces us? Hume was right about the world stretching in both directions. I don't know if what I mean exists, the privilege of a mind caught up in idealism. I try to be good, but that's a cheap concept. I am much worse than you. I am in awe at your beauty. I'm glad I got to witness your happiness. If nothing can meet something, then the world is complete, and Beethoven has plucking and sideway forward spin to the ground. I have nothing to sell you at the present moment, except the proclamation of having nothing to sell. Decadence is beauty, perversion is necessary. The eye is not a weapon. I am unworthy of such a fallen place. Do I truly believe that? Do you? Why is birth? And the absolute peace is something or other. I am in horror at your shame. I weep at your misery. I am confused when you look at me that way, but I understand it. I hope that you can be as happy as you deserve, do as you please, for your whims are often reasonable. You are the exciting nothing, automatons entwined. The metal cage with their chests unfortunately linked, struggling like Siamese. My receptors go crazy for you. It is the epiphenomenal that is the most important. Small little whistle apart from the engine. The train is banal, but the steam has lost its language. There is no positive spin, but you are an exceptional hug. Okay, sorry about that.
Man, that was fucking fire, man. That was great. I am honestly in awe of your fucking vocabulary. Some of those raps remind me of like indie rap from the 2000s when like people would just go fucking wild in terms of like trying to stretch the rhyme as much as possible, trying to find the most complex rhyme, trying to I'm thinking of like Aesop Rock and Company Flow and Francis and MF Doom and all of those like rappers like indie backpacker type rappers who were at their peak in the kind of mid aughts. And that I had there's the same fucking energy here, the same like desire to see how far the rhyme will stretch, to like find like to really like take your vocabulary and pull it to the extreme, like to really like stretch that as much as possible. And that's fucking cool. I think my favorite of these is I'm trying to find it. Fuck, I'm the Hideo Nakata Parapapa one. I love that entire rap in part because there's real fucking flow to that one. Like there's a real like cadence and rhythm to it that to me very much like if that one was set over a beat, you can really imagine that one going fucking hard, right? And you throughout that entire rap, you keep that cadence up, you keep that flow up. And I love that you in this one I love the like very what you do in that one where you do the kind of high-low rap thing where you'll like take something that's like intellectual and then rhyme it with like the parapapa, like the noise, like the or you'll rhyme something complicated with something simple. And I think some of my favorite rap verses do exactly that. They like set your expectations in one way, and then in the next fucking bar they go in the exact opposite direction. And there's a lot more in that particular one. I get the sense that there's a lot more of the actual like vocal musicality or whatever the fuck you want to call it to that one. Anyway, these were fucking
Gun
awesome, man.
sound.
The gun sound. Rudy,
Uh,
yeah, man.
so this reminds me a lot of like West Side Gun, like what Will William was saying, like the high-low rap thing where you take like like West Side Gun likes to quote like artists and like like name drop fashion designers and shit like that, and then they'll have a line like the new king of New York, the new king of New York, boom 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 bang bang, like shit like that. And the way he puts it together is like really like jarring and like weird, really weird. But also this reminds me a lot of like you remind me of like a less angry, more flowy Vinny Paz, who's the Jedi mind tricks guy.
That's
Vinny
a good
Paz is
comparison, Rudy. He's in that same kind of like mid 2000s kind of indie rap scene that I was
yeah,
talking about. Like
your flow sounds a lot like his.
you're right,
Honestly,
Rudy. It's much closer to Vinnie Paz than a few of the names I mentioned. Yeah.
but I like it, man. I mean, he showed me a lot of these, like some of the lines, like the the foot one and the parappa papa. I have to go to bat for that one. Like Will did, and it's just like that is like you mentioned, the flow is just so good there. It's really good. I'd like to hear these over a beat, definitely.
Absolutely. I think it's too bad Jeff couldn't get his keyboard working so that his mic will pick it up because I would love to see Jeff lay a beat and you rap over it. Uh, anyway, Rudy, don't mute your mic. You're up next. And thank you, Gianluca. That was fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. So I'm up with some Mary Poppins fan fiction, basically, is what this is. It's a poem. Yay. Post that up there. All right. Let me get the link here. Ugh. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I put the link in the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Thanks, man. So I had a really stupid idea the other night, and this is basically the it come to fruition kind of. Yeah, so this is called Mary Poppins Necromancer. Ooh. In the 1980s, crack flowed from the hands of the evil warlord, Colonel Oliver North. It trickled down like a real rain, dissolving on the hot city asphalt in an alchemical reaction. Cocaine liberated, free from its salty shackles, free to ravage the townships of man. Free samples, pay later. Free fire order in the war on drugs. Free all them niggas. Fumes free floated, wafting above the trees on tree streets, and eventually reached 17 Cherry Tree Lane, which was no longer the bank's residence, despite being briefly in the hands of the banks. Railways through Africa had brought new tenants. Freeloaders, mumbled an underemployed chimney sweep before he was made a victim of knife crime, cut down by dudes who couldn't wash off the black. This event spurred Mary Poppins, a flighty Atopos with witchy vibes, to take the next strong wind to New York City, where she declared a crusade against poverty and death dealing with the death of the old world in her own way. She assisted Giuliani for a hot minute, mending broken windows with sorcerous melodies. Occasionally, she stopped to cast a halting word at some ski mask youth up to no good. Sometimes, while embracing the gloom, she would even cast aspersions on the ability of black mothers to raise their children, like another witch who sang or spoke about society's ills from the podium of the domestic. Her weeping and wailing was fierce for nearly 5 whole years, a mere theatrical release cycle of 3 months in which time's dilated cosmos. And during this period, she thought of her old friend, Bert. She remembered jumping into paintings, dancing with gleeful animals, and decided that the answer to her melancholia was a new type of safari. She walked and walked and wandered in whimsy and waltzed through Central Park, feeding the birds for whatever an inflated tuppence is, until she happened upon a crime that had just happened, according to the New York Times. A chalk outline on the blacktop was all that remained of one dark-skinned Germain, and in this moment came Mary's revelation. She realized that the answer to the question of death is life, even if all the people seeing red don't realize it because they're squinting with scantron eyes at a dirty test. In a mystical jaunt, she fell into the chalk drawing, spiraling downward into the dead 17-year-old's world. Her umbrella made her descent comfortable, controlled, and she landed gingerly at a house party. She felt initially out of place and then strangely welcome among fades and dice games that aren't Monopoly and hip hop verses and oh my, inducing ethnic foods that shimmied in their cookpots like the kitchen scene in Precious. And all of this was preciously hand painted in 1990s Disney fashion. She found Germain, recognizing him by his soulful smile and strawberry jam colored bullet wound, just as the DJ was spinning up Notorious B.I.G.'s "You're Nobody Till Somebody Kills You." Excuse me. She swayed to the beat, then transformed the lyrics' grim narrative into a hopeful one, turning Turtle and the nigga lying face down in his own juices. She chose specifically to dote on Biggie's reference to Sycamore style. The room shifted to become a landscape of trees that only Mary could see the forest for. Her and Germain danced through the environment, avoiding dangers that took the form of evil eyes, crows dressed in baggy outfits, and laughing turn-off faces representing homicide statistics. When a jive turkey drawn to resemble a black gangbanger tried to put his arm around Germain, Mary hooked its neck with her umbrella, pulling it safely off stage. When a murder of large crows moved in, looking for a young black man to dash against each other, looking for young black men to dash against each other in the big picture of life, Mary cocked her umbrella and aimed it at them, wearing a smile that said, "Fuck with me." When a tattooed black swan opened its wings, displaying plumage and initiation scars for the swooning females, Mary stepped in front of it, opening up with a spirited, thoroughly improvised rendition of the Dean Martin hit that inspired Biggie's track. She sang for the year, the laughter, the tears, the tears. Oh boy, did she hammer home the value of finding the right found family and not falling in with the ignoble elements strewn across this rare earth like so much crusty detritus. And on she sang as the night became day and the trees became signs bearing their colloquial names, and the crows were displaced and the doves flew somewhere else, and the two Siamese cats resting in the old oak bought laundromats. Come dawn, Mary was back in Central Park, the chalk drawing was gone, and Germain was back in school, learning shit and eating free lunch, eating knowledge, eating the tiny little dollar store lollipop that Miss Beesman bought him for finishing his scholastic reader quota. A spoonful of sugar never tasted so good.
I love the final line of that. I was not that is the perfect repurposing of that
Spoonful of sugar.
of that quote from the movie, right?
Yeah, look.
This is a bit,
Right.
but I was spoiled a little bit on this one because you told me this concept last night, but I love this this is such a good concept because of the way that I want to say the word appropriates. The way that it appropriates that
Yeah.
device from Mary Poppins, right? The device of jumping into the chalk paintings, and makes it, and it just repurposes it to tell, like, I don't know, a story out of oh my gosh, what's Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the.
Tales from the Hood, is that what you're thinking? Or
Well, I
Tales
was,
from
yeah, the animator responsible for that. I can't believe
Oh,
his name, the Coonskin guy, and Fritz.
Ralph Bakshi,
Thank
yeah,
you. Like
yeah.
it's like Mary Poppins jumped into Ralph Bakshi animated
Oh, yeah.
short instead of jumping in to a Disney short instead of jumping into like the mystical chalk painting world with the animated carousel horses and everything else and the fake fox hunt and all. Instead you get this like fantastic and fantastical sequence that like has all the Disney tropes, has all the animated tropes, but presents them in, let's say, an entirely different light.
Different
So
light. Yeah, that's
shit, man, there's so much here. There's so many fantastic, hilarious and perverse details.
Yeah, it made
oh,
me
thank-
think about how like Sesame Street and shows like it were that educational like 90s like
yeah.
like types of shows were made to close like the gap and like deliver
Yeah.
Yep.
up to
Yep.
inner city
Deliver.
kids. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Deliver like teaching and instruction outside of class, which I think is very perverse. And actually, I love Mary Poppins, but like I love the movie, but like the character is a character that I find really disgusting and really perverse because of the way she delivers that shit with like such a like direct, like well not with such an indirect, like she's delivering it without them even knowing it really.
The way
Like
she seduces them into
she
like
seduces it,
positive
yeah.
socialization. Yeah.
And I had to shout out Ramona for the word atopos. I don't know if I pronounced it right, but basically it's a word that they use for Socrates. You say he was basically like off the map or ineffable type of thing. And that was actually
Oh, okay. I
Ramona.
get that.
Ramona told me,
Topos, yeah, because it's
yeah.
root word. Okay, yeah. I got you.
Ramona asked me to use this word in the next thing that I wrote, so I did, and this was actually really perfect. Because Mary Poppins, like, how do you describe Mary Poppins? Like, is she a witch or is she just, like witch doesn't really fit? I mean, it
No,
doesn't quite fit. I use it here, but
she's
it's
sui generis, right? She's
right,
entirely her own thing.
right, exactly. So that was the perfect word, Ramona. Thank you. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we should all start requesting words to appear in Rudy's next poem.
Yeah, safe bet is the word nigger, so that's a good one to
No, we gotta
to
give you
request.
harder ones than that. Better yet, we could start requesting words not appear in Rudy's future poems. All right, thank you, man. Thank you, man. David's up next.
All right, man. That was really great, man. I really like that. I'm just gonna read like a poem and then a short story. It is really quite short. This poem's called Voiceless, and it's about there's like two doctors discussing a patient. Okay. So, good Lord, this is a spineless wreck of a man. Doctor, he has the same facial expression as a worm. Worrying, but definitely comical. Yes, I agree. Quite humorous. Filthy mouth, dirty tongue, shows an obvious lack of respect for hygiene. Quite repulsive. Interesting, but repulsive. He is addled, no doubt, by Freudian demons. If the body symbolizes impurity, the mind must be a catalogue of perversity. Exactly, doctor. Exactly. Dead by 25. Dead by 25. Look at his eyes, they never sit still. Give him a crayon, primary coloured and suicide proof, to transcribe his delusions. Enter them. Oh dear. Thumb his scars, a command. His privates are nothing to speak of. His girlfriend, well, women are always disappointed. The penis must always return to its flaccid state. All men are weak. Stare at him until he internalizes our judgment. Cum flows grey like freight trains. Embarrassed by bodily functions, note it down. He is still ruled by sin. Thoughts are equal to actions. Such words birth psychotics. Watch him. His internal monologue has done a runner. He'll be too much for himself for the rest of the day. Grub his brain and let him take his nourishment. Pornographic filth has overrun his nerves. Make one of your cocktails. He's looping anyway. There is no cure for being a man. Get a cigar ready and a segment of orange. Put Charlie Parker on and put some vomit of Kerouac in his hands. His age is his main illness. His life will be ascribed a yearly value. He is an investment. I bet my house on it. My daughters are depending on him. His death will be mundane and full of beige roses. If he wakes, console him. The earth is still round. It still charts gravity's path around the sun. He feels no one loves him. It's always the mother. He read too much Tolstoy when he was 18. Roosevelt was right. Perversions come naturally for pacifists. His thoughts are not special. His illness is common and speaks not of artistic depths. He is normal, and the world mirrors every one of his fears. The key facts, the base facts. The thing he knows but can't accept. 19 in a nervous breakdown. Pathetic. 25. And then this is a short story called The Trap. The sky shedding the soft blue of Sunday afternoon burned sharp orange pathways down the horizon. A boy no older than 12 years old fiddles with a trap he built to catch small animals. The trap is empty. He looks over his shoulder. Behind him, a much bigger boy appears, his shoulders slumped, his large hands covered in red jam. Where the hell you been sticking them? Up your mum. Smart. He licks his thick fingers somewhat erotically. We had no bread in, and all the cutlery was dirty. So you just used your hands? Yeah, why? God gave them me for a reason. I'd feel sorry for God if he made you. He chuckled, his large frame resounding with a joyful bitterness. What you doing? He continued to lick his fingers, trying to capture a rabbit or something. Why? Bored. Why? Because I'm hungry. Want some jam? He extended his fingers towards him. That might attract your dad, but it don't work on me. Just as well. Everyone thinks we're gay. Who said that? The twins, that girl with the kettle head. Molly? Yeah. Fuck. She's not nice, even though she seems it. She's one of them. It's in her eyes if you look long. Maybe. He kept working on his trap, though it's obvious he had finished. You ever caught anything? No. I guess you never know until you try. Wish I didn't. A cow appears through the trees at the top of the field. You could eat that. The boy looked at the cow. Cows are too sad to eat. Doesn't stop me. Nothing does. The green of the field is as intense as the silence that surrounds. Want to have dinner at mine? The boy watches the cow. My mum likes having you. Thanks. Won't be catching anything with this. He kicks it ineffectually. How's your mum? The larger boy said. He shrugged. Women, eh? Women. They began the walk home. There was a dull thump as the trap shut. A baby hare is frantically trying to escape. Now that's sad, he said, sucking his finger. I doubt you would be able to kill it anyway. He walks up to the trap. He imagines how he must look to the little creature. Poor sod. He wipes away a few tears, which have managed to escape. The other boy notices, but doesn't comment. Let's go, I'll smash you at Halo. With your head, you'd be a sniper's dream, mate. He releases the hare, and it runs into the forest. Let's go, you can call your mum from mine. He wipes his eyes once more. He watches the bush still vibrating from the hare's distress. Sure you would never make another trap again, no matter what. He imagines never going home again. His father's image retreats from shot. There is too much in a single moment to be adequately explained. That's it. Thank you.
David, those were fucking wonderful. I unambiguously loved both of those fucking pieces. I want to talk about the story first because it's most immediate in my mind. You do a really perfect job in that story of capturing the very weird way that like compassion and sentimentality are intertwined with like viciousness and cruelty in the mind of a child. Like how inseparable those things are. I love the way that this piece goes from being really callous and cruel in the interaction between the two kids to being like deeply and honestly sentimental, right? And not in and excuse me, and in a way that I think is really deeply effective at conveying just like the wild swings of childhood and at the like way that you can children are capable of being simultaneously like very superficial and very nasty, but also like capable of really sudden and deep and profound feeling that that sense of like this moment is going to change me forever, even if it's something like relatively trivial. It's just a really fantastically well constructed story, and I adore the poem. It's so fucking scathing, right? It's so terrible. Like it's like a nightmare, like in the like psychoanalytic sense, right? Like, can you imagine anything worse than being forced to sit there while being observed in the most like relentless and uncompromising way by these figures who are they're doctors, who are like authority figures, and the way they just take this man apart verbally. It's unbelievable, man. There are so many individual lines there that are just so nasty and so nasty and not like so nasty in a way that's hard to refute, which is worse, right? It's not just like they're just slinging random insults at this guy. It's like they can see the essence of his soul and the essence of his life and the degree to which he's mediocre and doomed and just lay it out moment by moment, line by line in this wonderfully like precise and exacting way that's just so fucking brutal, man. It's really good. They're both very good.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Yeah, Molane's right. The "I'll smash you at Halo" line is fucking is great too. Um, anyway, thanks, man. And John the Fugitive Padula, excuse me, is up next.
Don't say that. Don't use my real name. What are you thinking? Don't you know people watch this fucking shit? What are you thinking?
Sorry, Johnny Hollywood. John has never committed a crime in his life, Hollywood.
I haven't. God damn it. Edit the first hour and a half out.
I promise you, the 5 feds that usually sit out on these things have bigger fish to fry.
They already heard Rudy. They already heard Rudy's Mary Poppins crack cocaine poem. They're still transcribing that. Don't worry about it.
You guys are whatever. Here's my story, kid problems. Joey and Lynn live in a small ranch house in the middle of the suburbs. The weather's always nice. They're both in their mid-20s. Lynn's a professional, brings in the majority of the income, and Joey is a semi-professional in between jobs and schools. I just feel like a total idiot, says Joey. It's 2 p.m. and Joey's across the couch wearing dirty underwear and a sock. Like, what the hell am I even doing? I don't even have a job. I'm a terrible artist. I keep fucking up my admittance exams. I keep fucking up my admittance exams, and I have to rely on you for a house and food. You're just having a rough patch, says Lynn. Just keep at it. Keep studying, and don't get too down on yourself. I don't mind supporting you for right now. I love you, Joey. You know that. Well, I love you too. I just thought things would be different at this point in my life. I thought I'd be successful, making money, buying you nice things. Instead, I just lie in bed all day and stay up all night. just doing nothing at all. Like I'm just wasting my time. These are my prime years, Lynn, and I'm wasting them being some loser in dirty underwear. Hey, come on, don't get worked up. But Joey's already worked up. I mean, everything I do is meaningless. This shit doesn't even matter. I send job application after job application and nobody gets back to me. I'm completely ignored. I keep reading through all those fucking study guides and you have to keep paying for retakes and I keep fucking failing. I mean, look at me. I'm worried about studying for a goddamn test. These are kid problems, Lynn. How can I say I'm an adult when this is the life I live? What the fuck? I'm a fucking kid, staying up late playing video games and just wasting all my time, and I'll be dead and I haven't done anything. Lynn sits down next to Joey, holds him in her arms like a mother does. It's okay. You know what I think? What? I think you're in a rut, and it's okay. We all get into ruts sometimes. You know what I do when I'm in a rut? What's that? I get up, and she stands Joey up. I take a shower, get dressed, and I find someone who looks like they're having a sad time, and I try to cheer them up, you know? What, that works? Of course it does. You go, listen to someone else's problems for a minute, get some perspective, and you realize that most problems aren't too big a deal. And if you help them figure out how to solve their problem, it'll help you figure out how to solve your own. It'll give you confidence, you know? I guess I could give it a shot. Yeah, says Lynn. That's the spirit. But who? You know, when I drove home, I passed by a kid sitting on the curb, looked pretty bummed out. Lynn peeks through the blinds, and it looks like he's still there. Come here, look at him. Doesn't he look bummed? Yeah, he does. Why don't you go over there and cheer him up? Well, shit. What do I say? Just listen to what he has to say. I'm sure you'll figure something. And if you can't, take a chocolate from the cupboard and give it to him. All else fails, that should cheer him up. All right, fine, I'll do it. So Joey hops up in the shower real quick, puts on semi-clean clothes, grabs a handful of chocolates, stuffs them in his pockets, and then sets out the front door to cheer up the kid. Kid's sitting on the curb. He has his fist balled up under his chin, elbows resting on his knees, and he looks absolutely miserable. Joey walks across the street looking at the kid. The kid doesn't try to make eye contact at all. His vision is glued to a pebble or something on the road. With a grunt, Joey bends all the way down and sits next to this kid on the curb. Hey, little buddy, notice you look kind of grumpy. What's wrong? Girlfriend died. Oh, man. Yeah, says the kid. Joey wants to get up and leave, but he notices Lynn staring at him through the blind. Instead, he pulls out a piece of chocolate from his pocket. You like want one of these? Nah. Oh, says Joey. That's cool. He feels weird putting it back in his pocket, so he just eats it himself. It's very quiet. When Joey bites down on the chocolate, he feels like it's very loud. So he tries chewing it more slowly, more like a knife through butter than a chomp. And although it's quieter than before, it takes way longer to eat it. And Joey feels like he's been talking or chewing on the damn thing for like 15 minutes. He's still chewing on it when he asks the kid, so like your girlfriend, was this like in a video game or something? Nah, says the kid, bone cancer. Oh, yep. Unsure what to do, Joey pops another chocolate in his mouth. The kid lets out a sigh. Yeah, never loved someone more than her. Known her for 5 years, half my life, did everything together. Even when we didn't have the same classes. Remember in 3rd grade, I had Miss Dobring and she had Miss Heifer. It was tough, but just getting to see her for that 1 hour during recess was just beautiful. Sometimes I'd try to sneak into her class with her. Sometimes she'd come to mine and hide under my desk. We coordinated bathroom breaks so we could all walk down the hall together. I'm sorry, that's really beautiful. The kid gives a faraway laugh. Huh. Yeah, it was. But then the bone cancer set in. They discovered it too late. At that point, her only options were to wait and let the bone cancer take her or remove all her bones. Either way was a death sentence. Shit, man, that's heavy, says Joey. It is what it is, says the kid. Damn, I guess so. Is there anything I can do to like cheer you up? Buy you something, walk you home? Home? I have no home. Hey, come on now, don't say that. My home was in her arms. Damn, that's some real shit, says Joey, overcome by how real this conversation is becoming. He pulls out a pack of cigarettes. You mind? Nah, not at all. He motions to offer one to the kid. Nah, I quit. Good man. But you shouldn't say you don't have a home no more. What about your parents, your family? I'm sure they love you very much. They do, and I love them very much too. Well, there, see? I'm sorry about your girlfriend, but know that you got a family at home. They'll be there for you. You'll get through this, little buddy. Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Huh. Whole family died. Your whole family died? Kid nods. Yep, whole family died. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? Yep, house fire was the only one who survived. I remember my mom and my two little sisters were the only ones I could save. Took all my strength to drag them out. The rest died in the house, either from the fire or from the choking. You're able to save your mom and little sisters. That's remarkable. You're a hero. Yeah, well, that's what I thought at first, but then I remember going to the hospital to visit them. Remember my mom? Doctors said she developed some kind of internal burns due to inhaling molten fiberglass. It was brutal. I just remember her crying for the doctors to let her go. Kill me, she said, and they wouldn't do it. By her bedside, she asked me to tell the doctors to do it, but I couldn't. I was scared. And after a few days of my mom's ungodly suffering, I finally worked up the courage, told the doctors to pull the plug. They said I couldn't do it, that I didn't have the power of attorney. The only one who could make the decision was my aunt, who happened to be on a cruise ship touring Europe at the time. For a whole month, I watched as my mom cried out for death that would not come. I shouldn't have pulled her from the fire. The fire would have been mercy. Joey's in tears. Oh my God, kid, I am so sorry. I am so sorry you had to go through that. As for my sisters, I didn't even have a chance to visit them. They died within a few hours of arriving at the hospital. Now it's just me, all alone. Joey's sobbing. His phone buzzes and he pulls it out. A text from Lynn. What the fuck are you doing? Are you crying? Joey tosses the phone in the grass. Kid, says Joey, I am so sorry. I've never heard a more heartbreaking story in my entire life. I promise. If there's anything I can do for you, you shouldn't make promises, sir. I might have to take you up on it. Anything. The kid takes in a deep breath. There's a favor you can do for me, but first I need to tell you the rest of my story. Oh God, there's more? Unfortunately, yes. You see, the fire that took my entire family wasn't an accident. It was orchestrated. My dad was a whistleblower. He was right about to release the details of Pizzagate when the house fire took everyone. Ever since then, I've been on the run. You're a fugitive? The kid covers Joey's mouth with his hand. Keep your voice down. There's more. My girlfriend, she was my last bastion of hope. Our love kept us safe. You see, you know that saying, blood is thicker than water? Well, my blood is poisoned, mister. I trust you. I need to tell you something. You must promise not to tell a soul. I promise. Okay, the truth is I have AIDS and I'm a werewolf. Two of modern medicine's greatest mysteries. But it's okay. When I'm in human form, the two diseases cancel out and I'm able to live a life as a normal boy. But once a month under the light of the full moon, I transform into something I'm not, a monster. I become an AIDS werewolf. My girlfriend had special powers. On full moons, she was able to use psychic beams to inhibit my transformation. Unfortunately, it was too much for her. The stress of using her psychic powers to suppress such a powerful beast was the very cause of her bone cancer. She's dead because of me. Kid, you can't blame yourself. I've made peace with it, mister. I've made my peace. The full moon will rise in 3 days. This will be the first time I won't have my girlfriend's powers to suppress the beast. And I fear what will happen to the people of this town. Now that you know my story, I have a favor to ask. Joey turns and looks into the kid's eyes, sees the intensity in them. Joey chokes on his words. He stands up to get away from them. Kid, you're not going to ask me to, are you? I'm sorry it falls to you, says the kid, but I can only be killed in werewolf form, and I can't do it myself. The truth is, I've been sitting here for days, and you're the first person to come and comfort me. It's a brutal task, but your kindness, the fact that you went out of your way to help me, shows that you have exactly the special heart that's needed to carry such a heavy task. But no, I just came out here because my girlfriend told me to. Well, then it must have been the stars that set this in motion. So be it. Thank you, and I'm sorry. But you must be the one to do it. You must kill me. But kid, go prepare for the full moon. I know it's a hard decision. Do you kill an innocent kid, or do you let a werewolf give hundreds of people AIDS? The choice is yours. I trust you'll make the right one. Here, take these. The kid hands him a plastic bag full of silver bullets and a Glock. You'll need these. Joey bends down and grabs the bag and the Glock from the kid. He walks away in a daze. And mister, says the kid. Joey turns around. Remember, a true hero is a person who knows the world might not forgive him. I hope they absolve you in your time. Joey waves goodbye to the kid, takes his bullet bag and his Glock, and walks back to Lynn and their comfortable little home. He walks by an elderly neighbor who's out watering his lawn. The neighbor says to Joey, the kid's right, you know. Joey ignores him. The neighbor watches him walk by. Joey walks into the house and shuts the door behind him. He's dead behind the eyes. Lynn runs up and asks him, well, how'd it go? Do you feel better? Honestly, no, not really, no.
I love how grounded this starts.
Yes, yes, Molay, that is actually exactly what I was going to say. I love, so this is all the absurdity that your stories usually do, but it's a much slower burn and it's a much more gradual like descent into madness. And I fucking love that. I love how like the awkwardness just ramps up a little bit, it escalates. You begin to think something bad is going to happen. As soon as he put the chocolates in his pocket and went over to talk to the kid, I thought I knew the way in which this was going to get ugly, but I was totally wrong. But it's wonderful, like how you like begin with like a complete, as Mullane said, like a completely mundane and normal situation, like a situation that I certainly, as someone who's unemployed, can relate to. This like just the malaise of like feeling worthless and day-to-day life. And I thought, is this going to be a totally different Johnny Hollywood story? And in some ways it was because of the way it's structured, but then the absurdity starts to creep in and the awkwardness starts to creep in and this oh man, and it gets so funny. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about the line. Where is it? Wait, hold on. I know it's a hard decision. You kill an innocent child, or do you let a werewolf give hundreds of people AIDS?
Yeah, it's not exactly the most elegant story I've ever written, but
it's good. It's good. I love the way I love the structure of this one, and I love how different it is from your other stories. And it gets so funny at the end. It was killing me at the end, man. And you know what? Here's the upside. You know, you have so much time to write in prison. You know,
no.
Oh no!
You just go in the library. You'll have
The
written, by
law
the time you
library.
get out in a few years, you'll have written hundreds of stories of at least this quality. Sorry, man, I had to do it. Rudy, did you want to say something?
Yeah, this is a really fucking awesome story, and like I'm just kind of in awe of how like the curve, how it perfectly curves into absurdity, with the AIDS werewolf thing, and yeah, like for how did you come up? I'm just curious. How did you come up with the thing where the diseases cancel out? Because yeah, I'm curious because I have a very selfish reason for why I want to know that.
I was just thinking they're both blood diseases, so
Oh, okay,
it
yeah.
probably works out.
That is fucking awesome. So in my D&D campaign, like vampirism and AIDS cancel out. I just thought that was really funny.
Oh, no way.
That struck me. So that just struck me as being like an extra sweet spot. But no, this is a fantastic fucking story. And I like the end where he just hands him the Glock and walks away. It's like, yeah, you know, I'll probably be a werewolf tonight or whenever, but like I'll see you sometime. So like just give him a bag full of silver bullets and then, you know, walk away and let him deal with that. That's so good because it's like, yeah, like, you know, the slow build up in the beginning where it's like about, you know, depression and ostensibly like relationship issues and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, well, there's really no solution. So it's like, whatever. And then Like you get to that ending and it's like, yeah, there's still no solution. It's just like you have to kill a werewolf with AIDS.
Right. Which life would you rather have, you know?
Which one would you rather have? Exactly. Yeah, it's great. It's great, John.
Thanks.
Very good, man. Very good. Michael's up next.
Cool. Yeah, let me share this document. So I wrote this story back in like 2021. I think I read like an early version of it here way back when. But I just kind of stuck it in the drawer and haven't looked at it in about two plus years. But I decided recently to take it out and edit it and maybe turn it into something submittable. So I'm going to read it for the first time in like 2 years, and just kind of hear it aloud and then go from there. It's called Quarantining the Ergosphere. The black hole first visited the apartment on a Tuesday, weeks before the pandemic lockdown swept across New York. What felt like abnormal warmth loitered in the park slope air. The trees and the sidewalk had green buds at the tips of their branches. Hip-hop music hollered from an open window in the building next door. I sat on the stoop because our front bell didn't work and the black hole was supposed to show up at noon. Everything was normal feeling, so much so that one could be forgiven the thinking that disaster wasn't lurking on the untouched pages of the calendar. My meeting with the black hole that afternoon derailed a planned lunch date, but I wasn't upset. At the time, I was a habitual ghoster, last seen in the open door of a cab or the maw of a subway entrance. I'm not proud of it, but that was the point, to scratch at the surface of relationships so that without ever letting them draw blood. When the black hole arrived precisely on time down to the second, they were hard to miss. They approached from the north, and their lensing effect magnified the image of the pharmacy 3 blocks away, where I bought my blood pressure medicine. The black hole was featureless, but around them spun a persimmon-colored accretion disk. Their email said they worked in fintech or investment banking, something innocuous in downtown. I wondered, unprovoked, what kind of soul resided inside them. When the black hole climbed the steps, I didn't reach out for a handshake. Not because I was fearful of touching their event horizon, as some people were, but because I read on Twitter and Facebook that sickness was spreading, a cough you couldn't quit, an unseen webbing of the lungs. Thanks for coming by, I said. Let's go up and I'll show you around the place. Said the black hole, their tone the same labyrinthine pulse, a bottomless deep that I remembered from the phone interview. Someone later told me that I didn't hear the black hole's actual voice, just their energy, their attraction. The stairs complained as we climbed. My 3 other roommates, Taylor, Kieran, and John, were at work. I was a freelance editor at the time and set my own schedule, which is another way to say I could choose to make less money if I wanted. I held this information in my mind as a way to answer the inevitable, what do you do for a living question I expected, but it didn't come. We simply moved as one to the 3rd floor and through the front door of the apartment. I cleaned up a bit beforehand, but the living room betrayed our messy occupancy in the line between persistent adolescence and delayed maturity. Ash-filled weed pipes, a 2-day McDonald's bag beside the coffee table, a jumble of shoes, old and new, the copy of our lease agreement discarded on the carpet. As we passed the paperwork, I picked it up and tucked it in the pocket of my bathrobe. The bedroom the black hole planned to take was the largest, meaning they would pay the most among us. The black hole said nothing when I brought this up. Their appearance did not change. I read somewhere that information and emotion die at the edge of their gravity. Whether they felt betrayed or taken advantage of remains unknown to me. The black hole wanted to check out the roof. Again, they said nothing, but gestured with a gamma ray ejection, a staggeringly beautiful extension of green-purple light. So we climbed the ladder out of the fire escape and breathed in the blustery Brooklyn air. The stench of trash and oil and exhaust had seemingly been swept away. So what do you think? Do you want to take the room? I asked. The black hole said. I removed the lease agreement and a ballpoint pen from my pocket and held it up to the black hole. I felt their gravity swoop them from my hands and watched the pen bend and stretch beyond recognition as it approached the spot where I needed the black hole signature. Where you live, it always draws you back in. When work is done, when you're too tired to stagger on through the night, when you seek the weight of a bed either alone or with someone. Before the city shut down, we were never afraid to leave it. Hell, any excuse to escape a place where cockroaches spread and water leaked like misinformation was welcome, vital even. But then we found ourselves on a late March evening buying face masks on eBay at prices that would make a seasoned scalper blush. Kieran snapped his laptop shut and set it on the couch beside him. After a moment, he pushed the laptop a few inches further away. John was packing a bowl. Taylor stood in the kitchen trying to beckon some heat out of one of the stovetop burners. I sat on the floor and tried to edit an article, but I instead mostly just pushed the words around and thought about the canceled trip to Massachusetts for my mother's birthday. The black hole sat in the sunken reclining chair in the corner we'd pulled in from the sidewalk, and they seemed as though they were staring out the window. I'd met Taylor and Kieran in a content marketing startup in Boston 5 years before, and they left for New York together in the summer of 2016. A layoff and a forceful desire to test my life savings led me to an open bedroom in their spacious 4-bedroom apartment. John had made waves as a young sculptor, leaning on the two first for their couch and later a glorified broom closet. A want for money led Kieran, a journalist, to surrender his home office so another roommate could be added. 6 weeks of aimless interviewing and emailing later, the black hole moved in. "This shit is so stupid," said Kieran. I didn't have anything for him apart from a kind of passive agreement, so I said nothing. "Taylor, don't you think this shit is stupid?" "So stupid," Taylor called from the kitchen. The stovetop burner clicked rapidly, failing to ignite, and its sound reminded me of impatient fingers. I was also hungry, but all the good places to eat around us had shut their metal doors, and any go-to delivery service felt too dangerous. Every day was another request that we deny our instinct to trust. "We should watch something," John said. "What do you think?" he asked, looking at the black hole. The black hole said. "You're going to put something on. Let's do something funny or bingy," Taylor said as she walked into the living room. "Kieran, can you help me with the oven? I'm not an electrician, or I don't know. What do you call someone who fixes an oven?" asked Kieran. "Appliance repair," I said without looking up. I could do with a good Netflix binge. "It's the season for it," said John. "I need your help," Taylor said. "It always seems to light when you try it." Kieran slapped his hands on his knees and stood. His joints cracked, but quietly enough so that you had to be listening closely to hear it. He followed Taylor into the kitchen, the low rustle of their conversation now too soft to understand. But I wanted to know what they were saying because there's something unique and interesting to me about the ways in which couples carve out their own vernaculars, inside jokes and jargons. Quarantine had made an observer of me, out of either some kind of domestic intellectualism or boredom or both. "Got it," Kieran exclaimed. "I told you," Taylor said. "I have the magic touch," Kieran was saying as he walked back into the living room and dropped back onto his seat on the couch. John held the bowl of weed, now slightly smoldering, out to him. "Can you open a window or something?" I asked. "We don't want to piss off the super again." "What are they going to do, kick us out?" John replied. "They could," I said. "No evictions or something. I read that before," said Kieran. "Plus, everybody's got to be getting high at home right now. What else is there to do?" Said the black hole. Taylor entered the living room with a bowl of pasta in her hand and settled in on the couch between John and Kieran. John was sifting through options on Netflix with the PlayStation controller. "There's too much to choose from," he muttered. "We need something that won't end for a while," said Taylor. "Something we can chew on in conversation." The armchair croaked as the black hole eased out of it. The black hole walked past the coffee table and toward the hallway in their bedroom. A copy of Infinite Jest that Kieran kept saying he planned to read during the lockdown because it was finally time to get through it, as he'd been laid off, swept into the air and dashed against the wall beside the TV. The book fell to the floor and its pages scattered like feathers. "What an asshole," Taylor said as Kieran got to his feet and began to collect the torn pages. By mid-April, I'd run out of freelance contracts. The companies in my stable simply had no money to pay me. To alleviate the boredom, I loafed on the roof and listened to the city with its long silences interrupted by the peal of ambulances. Sometimes I smoked or read. I downloaded a book about black holes onto my phone and flipped through its pages, baffled and lost amid most of what I read. On a cool night, I invited one of my hookups over, which ended with me paying for her taxi and listening to as Kieran shouted at me for an hour and a half about the health of the roommates. He accused me of caring more about sex than safety. It wasn't that. What I needed was an easy closeness, something that could be discarded on a piece of tissue. Some of me didn't want to be responsible for anything. One afternoon, I climbed to the kitchen from the fire escape to the sound of dishes breaking against the floor. Taylor was taking the long stacked and dirty plates and cups from the sink and dropping them. A few feet away from her, Kieran watched, dumbly. 2 weeks! 2 weeks, Kieran, she shouted. I'd only seen Taylor, a usually sunny spirit, an artist of paper and scalpels, a presence more often found in galleries than at home during the before times, this angry once or twice before. I kept one foot in the window and wondered if I should slink back out. "So what?" said Kieran. "Most of us are ordering out anyway. That's just the fucking thing, dude. We talked about reducing our exposure, and you're fucking letting all these people in the front door." Usually I just, Kieran began to say. He cleared his throat. Usually I just reach out through the door and take it. Take the things that they're touching, said Taylor. The people outside are touching. They're wearing masks, Kieran paused. Usually. Usually, Taylor repeated. Thinking back, these arguments cropped up increasingly at the margins of our group relationship, which took on a magnified importance once we'd cloistered ourselves from the world. The small disagreements between us bloomed like mold in forgotten cups of coffee. The invisible specter of the pandemic led us to question the words being said to us and what thoughts and feelings lurked in the gaps between sentences, the quick inhalations, the turns away from one another when arguments faded to the steady detente that reigned. It wasn't all bad. We had fun together those first months of quarantine. I woke up, but wasn't sure of the time. A fortress of clouds loomed in the window, and I couldn't tell if it was early morning or early evening. I'd gone to bed because I was bored and lonely. I groaned, feeling sore from too much horizontality, and reached for my phone and flicked away a few pages of the black hole book. The ergosphere is a region just beyond the black hole's event horizon. You can't go past the event horizon if you hope to escape. But in the ergosphere, everything is on the move, a state of gravitational restlessness. Your last chance to get away if you're able to regain control. Or maybe it's just the illusion of control, of agency. But how the hell do these authors know? I thought as I clicked off the screen and tugged the sheets back over my head. Have you seen Taylor? Kieran asked me one morning in the kitchen. I sat at the table and slurped down some 2-dry cornflakes and looked up from the unimportant thing on my phone. I think she's on the roof, I said. What about the black hole? Kieran asked, his voice quickening. Pretty sure they're up there too, I said. I dipped my spoon back into the cereal. I don't trust it, Kieran said, gripping the table's edge, like he needed it to stay upright. Look, if you see her, tell her I'm going for a walk. When he was gone, I drank the milk and cornflake dregs and thought about leaving too. But it was midday and I usually only left late at night, when the streets were more reliably abandoned. Life was starting to emerge from the crevices of the lockdown. Bodegas let you inside if you wore a mask. The exterminator hired by the landlord was making the rounds again, though we refused him entry despite the occasional roach that skittered past us in the kitchen. I washed my bowl and placed it in the drying rack, then walked over to the kitchen window and clambered out onto the fire escape. Taylor and the black hole stood close at the far edge of the roof. The black hole's lensing effect distorted my view of the skyline, making the city look as though the buildings rose and fell in a compressed arc of architecture. I felt as though I were standing at the edge of some anxious depths, so small that a breeze might knock me in. Taylor turned, smiled, and walked toward me, my view of her returning to normal. What time is it? She asked as she approached. 2 o'clock, I think. Huh. I totally lost track when I came up here. I thought it was still morning. What have you been up to? I asked, lighting a cigarette and gesturing with my Zippo toward the black hole. I couldn't tell if they were facing me, if they were facing the city, or even if that kind of distinction mattered here. Looking down, I noticed my left shoe was untied and the tips of the laces danced on the rooftop as the black hole's gravity tugged at them. Just talking. Really? Sure, Taylor said. They're a great listener, maybe the best I've ever met. Kieran was looking for you, I said. I'm sure he was. Taylor scratched her nose. We fought earlier, she said. He suggested I should maybe move out. It's like, where would I even go? She pawed the rooftop with her feet, like a cat trying to settle a blanket. Sometimes he just, I don't know, he doesn't know when to stop, or to not respond to everything I say with whatever matters to him. Like I'm supposed to be there to catch every selfish emotion exploding out of him. And this one, she continued, nodding at the black hole, I came up here to think after the fight, and they came over. It was just comforting, kind of, to be able to say something and not have it thrown back at me. I was on the couch when the black hole sat down on the couch beside me. It was June, I think, maybe July. Summer swept into the city off the sea weeks before. Kieran and Taylor had taken the ferry to Far Rockaway for a social distanced cookout. John was back at work as a server, and I'd watched him shake with unease on the way out the door. My computer sat on the table, useless, battery dead. None of my freelance pitches were being returned, so I felt no real impulse to keep the laptop alive. Feeling a particular sense of loneliness, I'd re-downloaded dating apps, but the conversations, such as they existed, were circular, rotating around some unspoken drain, with neither party willing or able to propose a meeting ground in the real world. Hey, I said to the black hole. They said in response. I wanted to know where the black hole was born, but I wasn't sure how. Taylor hadn't shared her secret. The two of them were spending more time together out on the roof, watching the sun dip below the horizon and bronzing the spires of the city. "Where'd you come from?" I asked. Said the black hole. I typed stars into Google on my phone and selected an image of a red supergiant, one of the massive stars scientists believe are susceptible to the forces of collapse. I held it in front of the black hole. "Did you look like this once?" The black hole inched forward on the couch. For the first time, I had the impression that the black hole was actually looking at something, that they were doing something more than just drawing things into them. That's how it started. Small moments of sharing. I talked about my mother, how alike we were, and the quiet fury of our anxieties, how they bound us to the world as though someone had filled our shoes with iron and water. How afraid of the world I already was when the excuses for being were much easier to grab from the couch. How scared of relationships this part of me made. Not just the terror in that moment of creation, but the undulating discomfort knowing that I was too panicked to give something back. How horrified I was to share emotion past whatever humor or politeness I could muster on the surface. How I wanted this part of me to change, but when there was a chance, an opening, I threw myself back in. In my book, I read that once a thing travels inside the black hole's event horizon, it can never return, but now I'm not so sure. Maybe. I don't know. Years later, it's hard not to believe that in some small way the black hole was listening and I was getting something back. That or I was being drawn deeper in without realizing it, the world beyond our shared grasp gradually slowing to a halt. One night that summer, I was with the black hole in their bedroom when I felt a rhapsodical urge to kiss them. The black hole was at the window, as they often were. Their white plastic window blinds never lowered. My skin glows with anticipation, my body more eager than my mind to leap into the unknown. An involuntary grin streaked across my face as I turned and walked over to the window. I'd never stood so close to the black hole. I felt my body start to bend, felt a force begin to lift me. The call of the orbit. My feet rose from the floor. My hands groped toward the unseeable, the unknowable, the singularity's heart. The second's hand on my wristwatch came to a halt. My vision of Earth stretched like a donut. A daggered wind coursed through me and wrenched my clothes away. It became a thing unimagined, a thing I cannot now describe, a thing at the end of language. My atoms sang. I opened my mouth to scream something, anything, but there simply wasn't time. August, October, December, the months spun by like objects on a child's mobile. I sat in my room on a morning evening and tried to work. A new freelance contract. Something about solar panels. They wanted me to write about infinite energy. It felt like too much like I was being asked to drag a lie across the sand and bury it by the sea. Eventually, the waves would set it free. I closed my laptop and left my room. I passed John's room, empty save for the light frosting of dust on the hardwood floor and standing lamp with a slightly bent stem. Kieran was gone too. He and Taylor hadn't broken up, but there was a wedge, a hairline fracture, so he was spending the month upstate with his father. 3 days before his exit, he'd stormed into the living room. Taylor was on the couch and the black hole was in its usual spot by the window. Kieran began to spout jealous bile at the black hole, accusing them of stealing Taylor. The black hole offered no discernible reaction, no noise or movement, and after going quiet, Kieran, ruby-cheeked and out of breath, turned and trudged down the hallway to his and Taylor's room. I walked into the kitchen where Taylor coaxed blue flames alive on the stovetop burner. "The black hole's partner is coming over today," Taylor said. Her voice sounded serene, like a distant bell. "Who?" "They told me about them a while back. I guess they're moving in together." Opposites attract, but also... Taylor laughed and ran a hand through her long black hair. "I'm driving north tomorrow to see Kieran." She sprinkled some salt into the water. "I miss him, but he's just so far gone?" I asked. "I think he needs a good slap." We both laughed gently. Then we stopped as we heard the fumble of a key in the lock of the front door. It opened and the black hole entered. Behind them was another black hole, slightly larger, its accretion disk blue-white, Nimbus-like with a somewhat faster rotation speed. Taylor and I both waved. "Hungry?" Said the black hole. The other one spoke too, their tone more energetic. Taylor and I laughed. We ate lunch together and then ascended to the roof to take in the view of the city. Impassable clouds lorded in the sky. I glanced upward, hoping the weather might bring snow. I turned away from the skyline, my eyes surveyed the long expanse of rooftops and brick chimneys sighing smoke. "Look," Taylor whispered. The black holes were dancing. binary momentum. New York, its face, its homes and spires distorted and cracked by a dark and unseen passion. The rotations of the black holes tightened. They were saying something beyond our comprehension. Taylor and I clung to one another. We couldn't see them, but it felt like great waves rippled through us. At last, the black holes emerged. A flash took away our sight, scorched our skin, flung us to the floor of the roof. Gravity held us down like some kind of spectral boot. But then it subsided. I pushed myself off the ground and helped Taylor to her feet. In front of us hummed a single black hole. Their accretion disk had merged and it flared the color of blinding violet, its edges dazzled with countless stars. The black hole pulsed and spun. New York's face undulated, our view obscured by the black hole's lensing. We stood too close to recognize anything beyond it. But even without the black hole's presence, we'd have struggled to make sense of the world, what it had become when dragged past the edge of human understanding. The words possessed to define this life of ours, like gods, could no longer be believed.
That was fantastic, Michael. You said you've read this one at Misery Loves Company before?
I remember reading an early version of this, but I could be mistaken.
Is it possible that you read it? There are a couple that I missed. There was one or two where Rudy was subbing for me, and I'm wondering if it's one of those because I feel like I'd remember this story, and I have no memory of it. But it's fantastic. It's really hard, I think, to write a good pandemic story because the pandemic was such an oddly dissociative experience for, I think, all of us, but also like simultaneously like a deeply political experience. There's all of I think when I read a lot of like pandemic themed writing, it often wants to deal very directly with the meaning of the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic. And a lot of that ends up seeming heavy-handed or didactic or like navel-gazing or whatever. And this is none of that. The way that you've taken this like magical realist take on the pandemic is totally novel, but it also, I think, is way more effective at getting at that alien emotional state that so many of us felt during the pandemic, right? That sense of being dissociated from reality, of being locked out. And I love the way you handle the black hole in this story. First of all, just on the basic level of how it's described in the story, you really get at the like weird mystical beauty of it, while also being very tied to specific scientific language. And I think that choice to really stay tightly locked into these sort of quasi-scientific descriptions of the black hole while you're simultaneously describing something that's totally impossible, that's totally magical, totally otherworldly, really makes it click, really makes those descriptions click. And the juxtaposition of that with all of the very restrained, mundane descriptions of pandemic life, I think that contrast is really effective. But I don't know, man, it just really resonates with me in a way that a lot of pandemic writing doesn't, and it really communicates, I think, a kind of like, I don't know, because there really was that sense of like time dilation and like, well, like what you describe here with the like in the aftermath of the like black hole sex scene where time suddenly speeds up after it had slowed way down. Like that's so much the experience of the pandemic and quarantine and shit, at least for me, where like time was unsteady, where you would feel like time would slow way down in a way that didn't make sense, and then suddenly you'd be like, what just happened to the last 2 months? And I don't know, it's really great. It's really great. And like a lot of your writing, you get a lot of emotional mileage out of very precise, very restrained prose, and I really appreciate that. Anyway, man, it's good shit.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I had submitted this a few times, like kind of when I wrote it, but I remember thinking like everyone is probably submitting pandemic stories right now. So I stuck it in the drawer. I was like, I'm going to come back to this someday. And I was thinking about it recently, so I thought, okay, maybe this story's time has come. I think I also saw, I forget what their name is, but like some novel like came out and it was about like some like tech worker who is kind of like being something like being like followed by a black hole. Like there's like a black hole in their vicinity, and I was just like thinking to myself, like, damn it, like someone kind of vaguely had the same idea that I did. So that kind of inspired me to pull this one out of the drawer. So I haven't looked at this in a couple of years. I can definitely see where I think my writing is a little clunky in places, but no, I appreciate the kind thoughts, and yeah, we'll see if this story can get out there.
Yeah, man, it's
I,
good. It's good. I hope to see
Yeah,
it. Oh, Rudy, sorry.
yeah, I really like the end of it, how it ends with the singularity, like how they merge and then they like the center of the black hole is a singularity or whatever, right? So, it's like ending with something like because like the idea of a singularity in human, terms or whatever is like an event people can't really understand or fully grasp. And like it ends with that when the whole thing is about like the pandemic and pandemic feels and shit. But there's also a part in there that's really like beautifully described where you describe like I think it's like redshift or whatever where the light goes like the light can't escape the black hole and like you see describe like how like everything is blurring kind of and shit and that was a really cool part
Hmm.
especially with like the like I think redshift has something to do with relativity or something like that. Is that I don't know, but like that, like if that's true, that's definitely like very pandemic feels oriented for at least for me because it was like oh like what day is it or what like what's going what where even am I what's going on. It's really like you really capture the feeling of that time like especially 2020 era.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it just time felt very weird, and I think everyone was just on their phones trying to like understand what the fuck was going on while being kind of horrified by it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fortunate in that I lived with someone and was near like open space to walk around, but I know a lot of people like in New York especially didn't have
Yeah.
that. So this was like partly an effort to like capture what that kind of that experience in New York was like, where you know
Uh,
I think there was a bit in there that didn't quite make it in the latest draft. Where it was like I remember, you'd be walking down the street and there would be someone walking toward you, and like both of you would just sort of like get out of each other's way, even though like there
oh
was
yeah.
plenty of berth, like there was plenty of space, but like you would just, it
Yeah.
was almost like there was this like gravity of fear that would like fling you
Yeah.
apart. Um, and yeah, it's a very very weird experience.
Definitely. Yeah. I think you capture it very well in this.
Rudy, do you remember Michael reading this one before? I'm
I
trying to
do. I
find.
remember this one. I remember this
Okay.
one being an earlier version of it. I
I
don't think it
can't
had the end.
remember. Yeah, I can't remember if the version I read. I don't think it had the like the whatchamacallit, the part with the other black hole, because that was something I added later. I think the original version ended with the black hole sex scene.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Again, you'd have to like go way back, but I
Gotcha.
definitely read like an earlier version of this. I'm pretty sure.
Now I'm wondering
Gotcha.
if I've just completely forgotten it, or if it was one of the couple of Misery Loves Companies that where Rudy subbed for me. I guess I know I'd have to go back and dig through the archive to know for sure. But either way, it's an awesome story, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And last up tonight is Tyler.
Hey, everybody.
Hey,
This is
Tyler, how's it
just,
going?
oh, pretty all right. This is just a little something I've been working on not too long. Find the link. Oh, shoot, I accidentally closed out of the link. One second. All right, I was gonna actually be prepared tonight and have it linked and ready to copy and drop in the chat, and then I fat fingered the tab closed.
It's definitely been known to happen. I've done that before too. You know how many times I've copied the wrong link into the chat?
Okay, here we go. Oh, make sure everyone has permission.
Yep,
Okay,
I can
good.
see it, so I think we're
Okay.
good.
All right, so this doesn't really have a title. No title as yet. By the time we'd known each other half an hour, we were already talking about which song we want playing in the background while we committed suicide. What got us on the subject was me telling her about this German horror movie I'd seen recently about a couple who make snuff films out of the suicides of consenting subjects. Two said subjects were a couple of girls, early 20s, if that, who, for reasons we are not privy to, decided to do a pills and vodka send off together. In a movie full of upsetting things, I found myself particularly upset by the music they'd chosen to usher themselves out of this world. It was some horrible late 90s jangly sub Mazzy Star dry jack, and worse yet, they were playing it on a tinny boom box that turned all the jangles all crunchy and abrasive. I don't know which of the girls picked out the music, but if I were the other one, I would have puked up all the pills and put a pin in the whole thing till we found something decent. Fine, she said, so what would you pick instead? It's a more involved question than would strike you at first glance. There are a couple of presuppositions. First of all, that you're killing yourself in some way that takes long enough to listen to a song. Bleeding out in the bathtub was the example she used. And I never really saw myself punching my ticket in that way. Didn't fit my personality. Part of that is no doubt related to how suicide tends to be gendered. Slitting your wrists in the tub is sort of your classic female suicide, a languid and lengthy affair that you need to set the mood for, in contrast to a quick and results driven manly suicide like a gun or hanging. There was a masturbation analogy in here, which I decided not to bring up because I was fucking amazed the drift of this conversation wasn't weirding her out and I didn't want to push my luck. She may have noticed that I restrained myself from saying something, but she didn't press the issue. She said she would dispute that. We both knew that suicide was underreported in light of the taboo nature of the acts, underreported by quite a bit, her opinion. And in particular, she suspected that tons of accidental overdoses among men weren't that accidental after all. It didn't surprise me at all that she had an answer on hand. Tomorrow never knows. I was already pretty attracted to her at this point, so I kept myself how basic I found that answer. Her reasoning surprised me, though. It's the drums mainly. I've always loved the drums on that song. I don't know how enough about production to put my finger on it, but it's sort of like echoey and strange. There's almost like a phase effect on it. It whooshes and sloshes around, and I don't know, the beat is just super hypnotic, and it's always been able to like calm me down. I think I'd need that. It was my turn now. I paused a moment in thought, and she chided me. She said I had something in mind already, and I should just spit it out instead of trying to think of something cooler to try and impress her, because my brain landed on it first, and therefore it was the most honest answer. I don't know to what extent I believe that most honest answer business, but she was right. I did have something in mind, so I told it to her. It was Heaven by Robin Hitchcock, but not the album version. The one I had in mind was a live version from some reissue. I ran across it by pure accident when my friend burned me a CD ages ago with it on there. It was an acoustic reworking of the version everybody knows that had a slower tempo, an interestingly lopsided arpeggio behind it, some harmonies that weren't there before, but most importantly, a surreal spoken word intro where Robin made the song out to be a folk song that miners used to sing while they prayed at a floating cathedral out in the wilderness. She asked me why I picked it, and I didn't have a reason other than it was just really, really beautiful. It's just the sort of thing I would want to hear before I couldn't hear anything anymore. I didn't go home with her tonight, but I got her number. When I got home, I had a particular maggot on my brain. I queued up Tomorrow Never Knows on a Bose speaker and filled up the bathtub. I grabbed a fillet knife from the kitchen and I gave myself a quick stab in the thigh with it, on the outer edge so as not to miss the femoral, I wasn't doing it for real. Nothing fancy in and out, only an inch or two deep. I climbed into the tub and winced at the hot water seared my wound. Moreover, I was dumb and left the shampoo bottle open in the bottom of the tub while it was filling, and that shit sure did sting. I lay there, lazily bleeding into the water until there was enough in the tub that I could pretend I was dying. Dried off my hand on the hanging towel, reached over to the counter and hit play. And I sat there and I tried to picture the consciousness oozing out of the edges of my vision. And I'll be damned if I didn't see what you meant. That drum part was absolutely meant to be played in a bathroom you were dying in. The acoustics were perfect. Drums bounced off the tile and mingled tantalizingly with the sound of the bloody water sloshing around when I shifted in the tub. The stifling heat coming off the water, the throb in my leg, all faded to the background, and after a few measures, I was totally zoned. Didn't perceive a thing besides that whooshing beat. I could have died right then if I had a mind to. A couple of times I had to catch myself from slipping downwards into the water and drowning, not through sleepiness exactly, more like just total emptiness. Afterwards, patting myself dry and gingerly blotting my leg wound, I debated whether or not to text her and tell her about it. I decided that was third date material.
Oh man, Tyler, that rocked. This piece is exactly the perfect fucking length. There's not a wasted sentence here. The hook is inherently captivating because these are the kind of conversations I think we all have had or secretly want to have. Like, there's this deep morbid fascination that's inherent to like human life where like that those questions just have this really strong pull to them. But what I really love about this piece is that final paragraph, because it is so perverse and so entirely unexpected, and yet it never breaks the logic of the piece. It's like it's so it like reveals something pathological about this character in such a beautiful way that's so in keeping with the logic of the piece, and yet such a complete detour that it seems totally plausible, but you would never fucking see it coming. And then that last line is just the perfect kind of punchline, the third date material line. After this guy, because we've been sold on this guy up to that paragraph, right? None of this these conversations seem morbid, right? But neither of these people seem like they might be fucked. And then this guy has just revealed himself to be like deeply fucked. And then we're yanked back into the reminder of like how this relationship might go, how it might unfold from here on out through a completely, like we're perceiving it through a completely new lens. It's so good. It's such a good, unreliable narrator flash piece that really like plays with your expectations. It's just, and it's a fun piece too, and a very funny one. I really enjoyed it, Tyler.
Thanks a lot.
I kind of want to know in the chat now, what song would you kill yourself to? Like it's such a good question. I don't know, guys, what would you do? I don't have a good answer. Tyler, is your answer in the story, or would it be a totally different song?
It's definitely one of the big contenders,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. That's the sort of thing that would get me so wrapped up. The choice that would be so hard to make as to like I'd never actually pull it off because could never decide what to do.
It is a hard choice, although actually I think I know my answer. I think it would be Mr. Tambourine Man by Bob Dylan. Because that's a
Oh.
song, like, you don't want to kill yourself to a depressing song. You listen to really depressing music so that you don't kill yourself. But if you're going to do it, and if you're sure you're going to do it, I think you want a song that's about death, but that like is about death in a mystical, transformative way and hopeful way. And I think that's what Mr. Tambourine Man is. Kind of like it's one of the few songs about death that can really, where you can really envision death as a kind of like joyful and peaceful passage into something else, you know. Rudy says, I hate myself and want to die by Nirvana. That's not a bad one. That's a very literal one. Sorry, I saw a couple of people on mute. David, Michael, I feel like you had answers because I saw you unmute and then remute.
I do have an answer. There is a I'm trying to find like a good like YouTube link for it because it really is like a beautiful piece of music. But there is a selection from Richard Wagner's "The Master Singers of Nuremberg." I would, if I was gonna die to some music, either suicide or not, it would definitely be this.
Oh man, I'll have to check it out. I'll have to check it
Yeah.
out. Anyone else? Anyone else before we close out the night? Anyone else? I'm curious. I know some people may want to save their answer for the after party when we're not recording.
David, that's a really good one. Thanks, Mike Factory.
What is that? What, Rudy, have you heard that one?
Yeah, that's fucking awesome song.
Is it country? Is it?
Yeah, it's a country
Okay.
song.
Uh,
I think it's
Alright.
Kenny Chesney. I think one of the older country guys. I think.
okay. I'll have to listen to that one too. See, this is good. I'm learning new music here. I have new tracks to listen to after this is over. All right. Okay. If nobody else wants to share, I guess we will close out the evening there. Thank you to everyone who read. This was another fucking awesome night. Lots of great pieces tonight. Lots of like really great lots of great spec fic tonight. Like stuff that isn't autofiction, isn't like, super realistic. And I love that. I sometimes like feel a certain amount, cause I don't know. Sometimes I get nostalgic for that. I wish I heard more of it. So that all very good stuff tonight. I'm rambling. We're gonna close it out. This has been Misery Loves Company. We do this every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Anyone is welcome to come and join us and share their work. Anyone is welcome to come and just hang out. We tweet out the link from our Twitter account at Misery Tourism a few minutes before we get started. And yeah, that's it. Thanks again, everyone. This has been a great one. I guess that's it.